Hi, this is Debbie, or Dealer4519 on YouTube. I'm going to get back to the story that I've been trying to tell because I think it'll help me. So sort of when I left off, we were in 1981, which is the year that I turned 13. So all of this happened around the time I turned 13. I guess I should start with, wow. So I already told you about my friend Kim, and we had been friends for, I'm going to guess, almost a year at this point, 6-8 months. And I adored her family, and apparently they sort of liked me too, because they were always there. They either liked me or they just wanted to save me. And Lord knows I appreciate that, because so few people actually knew what I was living through. Of course the school did. And they didn't actually ever hear it from me or from my mom, but it was obvious when all of a sudden a person who'd been paying for their lunches for 12 years got free lunch, was awarded the court. Those documents had to be sent in. There was a restraining order against my mother, again, from my mother and me. But what led to that is probably the most heartbreaking part, well, one of the most heartbreaking parts of my history. One time in the spring of 81, one of the drunken brawls happened, and of course somehow I get woke up and caught in the middle. Now we are talking somewhere between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning almost every time. Rarely before, because half the time nobody left the bar till it was closed, and I certainly don't mean me at that age. Oh, but I could spin your heads with the tales of how many months of my life I spent in a bar. In fact, I grew up in a bar. I don't know if I want to go back that far right now, but that's true. I did grow up in a bar. Every time that every time somebody was off work, somebody being my mother, and they didn't have a babysitter, I got drugged to the bar with them. Trust me, that is no life for a child. I ate bar food. It's no wonder I got fat as a child, because I had to eat fast food or chips from the bar, and I drank Strawberry Crush from the time I can remember until I quit going to the bar. I think it was Strawberry Crush. But anyway, those memories are so fleeting. Let me get to the point. In the spring of 81, one of those drunken brawls happened, and I, of course, this time got beat horribly. I had scratch marks on my chest, down my back. I had bruises everywhere. And this time, when the officer came to the door, I was in bed. I wanted them all to go away, but the neighbors called. The neighbors called and said, "Look, there's something going on over there, and there's a child living there, and y'all need to get over there." So they came, and they came into my bedroom. Well, he was a male officer. Of course, he knocked at the door. And I said, yes. And he said, "Are you dressed?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, can you open the door? And cover up, and just open the door, cover up, whatever, just open the door. I need to check you." And I kept hearing my mother scream, "Don't open that goddamn door." I'm thinking, oh, here we go again. But I didn't really have a choice. I have a policeman, a man that, and mind you now, no, I'm from the day when you grew up respecting your town policeman. So this is big news, and I have a policeman at the other side of my bedroom door telling me to open the door, and I don't necessarily want to argue with him, so I unlocked the door. I had it locked, and I opened the door. And I probably was in sweats and a t-shirt, if I know me. And even though I'm saying it was the spring, it was northern Indiana, so it really barely was spring. But he looked at me, And he said, do you have any other marks, scars, bruises? I don't know. I don't know. And he could see the ones on my neck and chest. And he said, are those from tonight? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, because they were. And he said, I need you to get dressed, grab a few changes of clothes, you're coming with me. I said, am I going to go to jail? He said, we don't ever take kids to jail. Well, that might have been true back then, but that's what he said to assure me. And I don't know why I was afraid of jail that time, except that my mom kept screaming, it's her, and I didn't, me, it's me, and I didn't necessarily want to go to jail for being beaten, but anyway, that's beside the point. I was, 13 years old. And, wow. So he took me, I got a plastic bag and I put my clothes in it and I walked out the door. Well, I was already dressed. Before I ever left my room, I had my coat. And I, got what I was supposed to get, and we walked out the door and we got into his car and he took me again to McDonald's and he fed me. Even though it's the middle of the night and I'm not hungry. I think it was McDonald's. He went somewhere, and I think it was McDonald's. At that point, if we had a 24-hour McDonald's, although I think Burger King's on that corner, but I've been gone from there for a very long time, so I can't recall. And he said, he said, we're going to go back to the police station, yada, yada. I've been through all this before, but this time, when they picked me up, things were different, and it was all different. We went to the police station. He said, come on, we got to go to the hospital. What? So we did the 40-minute drive to the county hospital in Valparaiso, Indiana. It was 35 minutes. But anyway, he, it wasn't no hurry. And we went to the hospital, and they looked at me and my scratches and my... Then is when you could see the bruises. I couldn't see most of them because they were on my back and the back of my arms and shoulders. But when I got to the ER, the doctor came in and the nurses, they talked to me. And they brought me anything I wanted. You want crackers? You want a sandwich? You want Jell-O? Look. I'm in the ER, and it's not an emergency, well, to me. But then they came in, and the DHR people started taking pictures. And they were bad pictures. I didn't see them then, but you could hear their, oh my God. And then they'd say, are you sore? Do you feel like you have any broken ribs? I'm like, no. Well, that's pretty tough because, of course, think of the environment I was raised in. And my mother thinking she was a man. So, yeah, I was pretty tough back then. And we got to court, and believe it or not, court was on the 4th day. So I spend 3 nights in a foster home, and I go to court, and the judge sees these pictures. So he passes a folder around, and to the district attorney, who hands it to me and says, are these your pictures of you? Now we're in a fake courtroom, sort of like a side chamber to a judge's office or something, but nonetheless, it was, just a table and 8 chairs, but you know what's going on because they're recording everything you say with a microphone on the table, and the judge explains you got to tell truth, and even a child at my age would have gotten that, and I'm like, oh my God, yes, these are pictures of me, and were these taken at Porter Memorial Hospital on, which was the name of the hospital then, da-da-da. Yeah. So he hands this folder to my mother. My mother adamantly denies that she did this. So finally, I don't know, nobody ever asks a child to speak really, unless you're answering questions, but somebody asked me to say something, so okay, say something. I said, well, honestly, again, I gotta say this now, my mother did not raise a hand to me, but it is the woman living with us. And the judge asked her, and she said, no, it didn't happen that way, that this was all misinformation. And then he asked the officer, what he thought, and the officer said, well, as drunk as they were when I got there, it's amazing they even remember that happened, that it happened at all. I'm like, oh, Lord. So the judge puts a restraining order against the woman, Gail, for me. So she's not allowed anywhere near me. And then he blindly sends me home. All right, so we're pushing my 8th grade year at this point. I guess we're in the, spring of my 7th. And so the 7th grade summer comes along, and I'm going to stop it there because I'm getting really worn out, dragging out all these memories. But I appreciate y'all being there. Have a great night, and I'll try to record again soon. Bye.